It has been a rough 72 hours for the J. Cole fandom. The guy gets dissed seemingly out of nowhere several weeks ago on the new Metro Boomin and Future project by Kendrick Lamar. Then after that, I'm sure it's days and days and days of prodding and questioning and even harassing, I'm sure, from friends and fans and haters alike, all asking Cole, what are you going to do? We need a response. Eventually, this past weekend, we finally get that. It arrives in the form of a single track off of this latest project he has just put out, Might Delete Later. The song is 7 Minute Drill. We talked about it in the previous video on this channel. It was a lame, it was a weak, nothing burger response, to say the least. And now, over the weekend on which this response was released at a live show for J. Cole's Dreamville Fest, the guy is on the stage apologizing for the response.
Dreamville, y'all love Kendrick Lamar, correct? As do I. So I just want to come up here and be like, publicly be like, bruh, that was the lamest, like, goofiest shit. And I say all that to say, it made me feel like 10 years ago when I was moving incorrectly.
Cole pretty much takes everything back. Not only the jabs and the downplaying of Kendrick Lamar's discography, but even the energy he went into the response with, which I may be wrong, and correct me if I am in the comments, but this is a progression of events that I think is just unforeseen in rap music. Like a diss, a challenge, an attack happens, lyrically speaking, and then eventually a response comes, and the responder doesn't even give that response a week's time to breathe and is apologizing for responding? There's two directions this video can take from here. The easy, tempting, immature response, where I just jump on Cole and feel validated for calling out his response as being mediocre, being underwhelming, shoving it in the face of J. Cole fans, and maybe even, like asking for an apology, for being told like, oh, you're just biased. You don't know a lame track when you hear one. You just hate J. Cole. Kendrick Lamar is trash. Actually, I think the tone this video should take is the more mature tone, where I actually agree with a lot of what J. Cole is saying here, and I praise him for being frank and being open and being real about his feelings that were, yes, very transparent and very obvious, very on the surface of that diss track. Like, clearly on 7 Minute Drill, J. Cole was throwing his shots at Kendrick Lamar. He was going at him, but from his voice, from his one-liners, from even his beat choice, you could tell his heart was not in that song. It was not in that response. It was not something he wanted to do. We have heard J. Cole on tracks before spitting fire, going at the beat, like coming at it hungry, aggressive, just like ready to go. He was not ready to go on that track because I don't think that's his energy. That's the way he wants to carry himself in the world. And he makes that clear in this response. And yeah, while he does apologize to Kendrick, J. Cole's statement here that he makes on the stage runs so much deeper than, one dude apologizing to another. It's clear that the sort of energy that he had to put into that track to do it, even in the half-assed way that he did. That's not the way he wants to carry himself in the world. And he is apologizing to the fans and the audience as well for being not true to himself, which, again, authentic, frank, real, and ultimately I think is a good thing. The fact of the matter is this: even though I think that Kendrick Lamar shot at J. Cole and Drake was funny and entertaining, I have acknowledged before and I will acknowledge again, it is out of nowhere and it is kind of like unnecessary. We don't need to have this winner take all, zero-sum game, crabs in a bucket mentality in order to have good music out there that everyone likes. In order for numerous artists on the rap circuit to be eating and succeeding and doing their thing. So yeah, even if you can technically put a point on the board for Kendrick right now, that attack was just out of nowhere. So frankly, again, I commend J. Cole for acknowledging the absurdity of this whole thing and realizing just how unnecessary this response was to his artistry, to his success, to his spot in hip hop broadly. And ultimately, I think this response could have a long-term positive effect in terms of how fans perceive rap beef generally. Bars and disses and artistry aside, this guy was man enough to come up on stage and acknowledge the fact that he went into this whole situation inauthentically. He did something that wasn't really him. And now there's a lot of J. Cole fans and a lot of rap fans that are going to have to deal with like some cognitive dissonance as a result of this. Because J. Cole told them the very thing they absolutely do not want to hear, that this rap beef stuff is lame, and the attacks that he leveled at Kendrick Lamar, that many of them got 100% on board for, that they were wrong and they were dumb, and he takes them back. So now do you continue standing behind this guy whose music you love, and obviously he means something to you on some level? Do you continue to ride with him as he is growing and changing and becoming more self-aware? Or do you throw him in the trash and say, screw him, he's lame, he's a loser, he should have went harder, he should have never apologized? You just embrace the pump chest machismo posturing, and as a result, you're left with one less artist to listen to who you enjoy. Even if what J. Cole is saying here does sound a little bit lame, I think he's inadvertently acknowledging a truth and a reality that all of us are going to have to come to grips with at some point. And that's diss culture, beef culture in hip hop. It's pretty much dead, or it's certainly on its way out the door, which is something I would like to circle back on in another vid later when I have more thoughts collected on this topic. But I'll kill two birds with one stone here and close this up by saying Drake, because obviously he's implicated in this whole thing too. It's most likely not even a good idea for him to respond to this whole thing at this point. Not only given how J. Cole's response here kind of changes the tone of the whole thing right now, but also on top of it, if Drake were to respond and the response was decent and things kind of ramped up from there, how likely would it be that we would end up in another Pusha T situation where things kind of get a little too hot for him, and as a result, he just kind of cries foul, calls the whole thing off, and puts out a press statement. I don't want to let J. Cole off the hook too easy, though. I do commend him for apologizing here in the way that he has, but I think he really could have gotten specific in his apologies in terms of just how awful and trashy some of these disses and attacks were on this Might Delete Later project, not just on the closing track of that record, but on the track Pie, which contains a bar that many fans have accurately interpreted as being pretty transphobic, talking about this rapper, presumably Kendrick, who is portraying themselves as loud and tough, but them not actually being that way. And of course, J. Cole uses transness as an example of a thing where somebody is being inauthentic or something they are not. And one also has to presume on some level that this is coming up as a topic on this bar due to the Kendrick Lamar track Auntie Diaries, because if it's not, then why is J. Cole even bringing it up? Does he just have trans people on his head ready to send strays their way whenever he has a rapper or a person to make fun of that he doesn't like? But yeah, while Cole was sort of in apology mode, something acknowledging that certainly would have been nice. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. J. Cole, apology. Honestly, respect it. Let me know what you guys think about all of this down in the comments below. I'm sure lots of discourse will be had. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, J. Cole, forever.